Hello and welcome to my final year project presentation. My name is Kieran Byrne, as you can see above my head there, and the project itself is called Skamwise. So just as an introduction for what it is, everyone has seen or received a suspicious URL that they would rather not click on before knowing whether or not it is safe. Maybe you saw it while you were on the internet or while you were browsing through your inbox, your email inbox. And essentially, my project, Scamwise, is a URL scanning security service. The application checks URLs against known fraudulent websites containing malware from a database which is updated daily. So simply enter the URL into Scamwise and it will determine whether or not it is safe to browse. The technologies used, I use Python for the bulk of the computation and everything, essentially everything. I use HTML, CSS for the front end, and I use JSON as well to help me complete the project. You can see there I use the Django framework, which works well with Python, and I use Scrapey as my web scraper, which you'll see in action now in the demonstration. I used it to gather the fraudulent websites off of the database. Right, here we are in the code. So I'm in fake sites db spider.py. I'm importing Scrapey at the top, and it's commented on the side here with what each line does. But I'm going to give it a run. I'm going to type in Scrapey crawl fake sites, press enter, and off it goes. And it's gathering all these malicious links here on the side. And right now it's not sending them anywhere, it's not writing them down, it's just displaying them for presentation purposes. And essentially it's working as intended. Yeah. And so for my project, I'm going into the JSON file here. For my project, I would type crawl fake sites and I would do a dash and I'd make it write to a JSON file. And that's what I've done here. And you can see what I've done previously is I've done that and it's taking all of them and it's placing them in this JSON file, which I can then later call on in my code. It's it's how I made the project complete rather than having this run every day, every morning, because the database I'm taking from is obviously updated daily. So instead of that, just do it once, write it all into the JSON file, and then carry on with the project, essentially making it be completable. Otherwise, I'd be constantly having to run this every morning. And this goes for a very long time. I think there's 20 of these fraudulent links per page, and there's 8,200 pages. So yeah, you could see this when I initially got this list written out, I had to leave my PC running for a couple of days. Right, so I will stop the web crawler now, and I will go into views.py, which is a Django framework file, which I did the bulk of computation for the Skamwise project. As you can see, it's again commented on the side what each line does. Create web page. I've defined URL checker, which is where we check the URLs. And it's saying here, if we get in a URL, create it, and if it's valid, and if it's in our list, and then it's render warning or render safety message. And I'm going to run the server now. Python manage.py run server, press enter. Boom. And it'll open up into the landing page. Here we are. It's quite simplistic, as you can see. That's how I wanted it. Didn't want it cluttered at all. Just enter your URL here and the submit button. So we'll give it a test. We'll put in youtube.com, press submit. It says your URL is safe to browse. Very good. This is one I've taken from the list. It says your URL is not safe to browse. So it's working as intended, which is good. Let's go back into the slides and a bit of a Q&A here. So what is the most difficult part of the project you have completed? The most difficult part of the project, I would say, was getting the web crawler to work. It was the first thing that I did, and it also took me the longest. So essentially, pinpointing and telling the web crawler to get only the links, not who entered it or when they entered it, just the URLs, because that's all I needed. That took a long time, a lot of trial and error. And then once I had that, I needed to make it work with the rest of the project, which I did. So I was happy when I completed that. Next question. How did you go about identifying the requirements for your application? Um, for this one, I worked with colleagues in my college because I did computer science. So there was obviously a lot of computer science lecturers and students around me, and they had all had their own different stories about malware and viruses that they had runs into. Some of them had to pay people to clean and wipe their entire hard drive. Some people just threw out their laptops, bought a new one. So I thought, how can I solve this problem? And that's how I identified the requirements. Um, yeah. Next question. What is the most difficult part of your project, which is yet to be completed, and how do you plan to do it? Um, for this one, I would say having the database auto update itself. So like I mentioned before, I've used a JSON file. After running the web crawler once, it's writing it to the JSON file, and then I'm calling from the JSON file so that I don't have to call directly from the database itself, which is updating it every day. How would I do that? Instead of the JSON file, I would have to run the web crawler every day at a specific time. So essentially, it would be up to date. The project would be up to date. Because obviously scam websites and malicious websites are popping up every day. There's new ones. Right now, you get an up to date check, but you don't get the up to dateist check, if you will. Yeah. So other than that, the project is fully complete and functional, and I believe it's innovative enough. And using the JSON was how I got it to be fully complete. So I was happy with that, my solution. And yeah, that's it. I kept it short. So that's the end. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Yeah, see you next time.